G'day guys, back to the Outer Circle, and in today's episode we're going to be looking at the Ultramarines in our Legionnaires Astartes range review. So, the Ultramarines, well, we're actually missing a set of helmets and a set of torso upgrades. So, the only one left over from 1.0 now is these Praetorian heads, but there was also the Invictarii heads, which were very similar to the old Ultramarines Honor Guard in 40k, with a sort of Mark IV helmet with a transverse crest running from front to back of the helmet, and a sort of Aquila eagle's wings making up the front visor of the helmet. I actually really liked those. So if I remember to, I'll put a picture in here when I edit the video. Anyway, the Praetorian heads here, I take it or leave it really. They don't add so much to the Ultramarines that I really feel like, wow, those are Ultramarines. Those heads scream to me that is that Legion. No, they don't do anything like that. And in fact, the little sort of Templar-style crosses on the forehead of some of these helmets or on the front visors looks more like it could belong to the Dark Angels or to the Imperial Fists as some form of Templar brethren, perhaps. So yeah, look, it's the Ultramarines. They're supposed to be quite a vanilla Legion. I just wish they'd done something a little bit more interesting with the helmets. They are nice as alternate sculpts to occasionally sprinkle throughout, but that's about it. And the Barehead Sergeant does really not much for me. Then we have the new Ultramarines Mark VI helmets here. And all they've done with these is they've added an indented line on each side of the center of the helmet, so you can paint a stripe more easily down the center of the head, I guess. And they've put in sort of a slot coming down off the eyeball and running along the cheek of the helmet visor. It adds a little bit more definition, I guess, but I guess nothing really screams that these have to be Ultramarines. Yes, a couple of them have the U symbol on them. Yeah, the bear head is sort of a repeat of the last one. It looks like an Burns riddled John Voight, and the rear, I guess the rear beaky head with the Ultramarines icon on it. Yeah, that could probably get some use out of, but really, there's nothing that really makes me want to buy these. Maybe for use in like a veteran squad if they're all in Mark VI for some reason, because then I could more easily paint the stripe down the center of the heads if someone was so inclined, but I'm happy to freehand it anyway, so yeah, take it or leave it. None of the Ultramarines upgrades here are very inspiring. Then we get to the Contemptor Dreadnought, and look, I've owned this. I've owned every Contemptor Dreadnought, in fact, for the Horus Heresy at some point, some in multiples. This is not one that I am keen to get multiples of, not because it's a bad design, it's just fine, does the job. It definitely was much, much better when it was the full resin Dreadnought, and well, shockingly, that's pretty much my opinion for all of these Dreadnoughts. It really did benefit from having the appropriate body design with the trim and such on there. It also came with this sort of wanky little belt buckle shield with leather strapping hanging off it that I never glued onto mine because it really didn't work for me, but it was fine. It was a perfectly acceptable Contemptor Dreadnought, but it was never one I really wanted to go out of my way and get more than one of. I found that one was plenty for my needs, and yeah, it's fine. Then the Ultramarines Praetorian Breacher Shields. Now these, I really do like. They're good for a few reasons. For a start, they give you more weapons for once than you actually need, because it gives you the extra Invictarii Suzerain Power Axe, which is neat. It doesn't just give you the Gladius Power Swords. Now they're all the same sculpt of sword, but at least the arms are all different. So there's some posability there. Also, the 10 shields that you get, well, the 5 in this, but you're going to build a squad of 10, a unit of 10 minimum, Well, the shields are quite nice, but it is just the same design repeated. It's not like we'll see on the Invictus Suzerain. Now, I think it adds a bit of character to the Legion. It is clearly the older style of shield that dates from the Badab Wars era, the boarding teams back then, with the Ultramarines iconography placed onto it, and that's fine. It's a perfectly acceptable mark of shield to use. It's just not the Mark III Breacher shield most people are probably used to in the Horus Heresy. And I like this design a heck of a lot more than what they did with the Templar Brethren. I think the Ultramarines are a far better looking unit. Problem is, they're not bad on the tabletop, but, well, look at the universe they exist within. You almost never see the unit actually play, which is a shame because I think it's gorgeous. So really, the Ultramarines Praetorian Breacher Shields is not usually bought by people to make a big unit of Ultramarines Praetorian Breaches. It's built to make characters. This is an upgrade set. Gladiuses for all your sergeants, or the occasional Ultramarines Invictus Axe, like whatever you like, that's what this set is for, and that's what I would suggest you do with it as well. Then we have the Invictus Suzerains. Now we're into actual Legion-specific units, and I have built and painted these guys, and I didn't really enjoy it. I found them very, very busy. Every single one of these models had as much or more going on than the HQ choices of many legions, and I don't really feel that that was thematic to the Horus Heresy, even if it is the Ultramarines, and they're a bit more blingy than most, because these guys have more going on than Palatine Blades do, or Phoenix Terminators, and they're Emperor's Children. They're renowned for being over the top and ostentatious in their trim. It just felt like every spot they could on this armor, they had done something with it to make it more unique. And sometimes I complain that models are not unique enough. This is one of the instances where it's like, no, you've done too much. You need to dial it back 5-10%. The shields are nice. The chest itself, the breastplate of the armor, and the leather strapping, I think that all works. And I'm not even against the legs, but when it comes to like the little ultra symbols on the vambrace on the forearm, or the gigantic Judge Dredd style Aquila Eagle shoulder pads, there's even a U symbol on the back. I don't know if we have a 360 view in here, but even the back of the model on the backpack has Ultramarines iconography. And then you've got the helmet as well, and it's like, well, the helmet alone tells you plenty about the unit. And it's just so over the top, so overboard what's going on with this unit that I didn't really enjoy it. And then when it came to the shields, they're all unique, which is great. But they don't really work as bridging shields. They look more like combat shields, because they don't actually have any spot to aim a weapon through, like a bolt gun. Instead, they work like a combat shield. The pistol itself is held in the hand that is holding the shield. So, I don't know, it's just a weird quirk of the rules as played, as intended, and the models are sculpted. Very much that's a combat shield, not a boarding shield. I mean, if you can carry boarding shields with pistols like this, or full-size bolt guns, why aren't people doing that? Begs the question, right? Why have the other legions not realised how to wield a chain axe or something in their right hand and hold the bolter in their left and still be as effective? I don't know. Just a weird quirk of the fluff. But Suzerains have never been one of my favourite units. They're probably a 7, maybe even a 6.5. Because it's just a little bit overboard. And when I worked on them myself, I removed some of the details just to dial them back a bit, because there's just so much going on with these guys. So much. Then we get to the Praetors, and you thought there was a lot going on before. Can you tell what legion this guy belongs to? Let's see. You on the shin, you on tacit, you on the belt buckle, you in the helmet, you making up the shape of the faceplate. Then we got a U on the top of the backpack. Well, let's see what else we have here. 360 degree view. Let's go. Let's see. U on the vambrace, U on the sword, Legion numeral on the leg, another ultra symbol on the backpack. Another Legion numeral carved into the skull on the arm. U's all around the upper thigh where it joins at the hip. The Legion icon on the shin. Of course, the Legion numeral and icon on the scabbard. Even the side of the weapon has a U. This is, to me, this personally is the Grim Derp style. Where it's like you've gone so many of this icon in there that, you know, it's like a 40k miniature. It's trying to tell you exactly what it is. So even as bare resin with no paint job or anything like that, it is unmistakably Ultramarine because of that icon. And I don't like minis like that. There's a range of reasons as to why, but I like, you know, put your Legion icon in 2, maybe 3 places on the miniature. There's no real need to do more than that. And I think with Ultramarines especially, belt buckle and the sword hilt, the pommel of the sword or the crossguard are perfectly good locations to have it. Don't really need it anywhere else. So when you see it this many times repeated on the model, it just becomes nauseating because, well, this model is no good to convert for another Legion because you can't get rid of all those Ultra symbols. So it's kind of frustrating. And despite having all of this gold and this bling, something feels off about it. And that's, for me personally, I think it's the chest is just flat blue. There's no symbols or anything like that in there. And it's almost like a black hole when you stare at this screen. All around it is just gold. Golden shoulders, golden legs. You've got the scabbard and the rich reds of the leathers. The bright skin on the face of the model. The bright whites of these straps hanging on the Vexilia on his backpack. And then just terminate it in a flat matte blue chest. It's just I don't know. It's weird things about the sculpt and paint job combined. I do not like this model. I think it's like a 5 out of 10. It works, and that is all. Then we get to the Cataphracti Praetor. So, hey, everything we said about that previous model. Yeah. Look, I like this more, but every single strap on the shoulders is a U. It's an Ultra symbol. So again, you're not converting this. This is not being used by anyone else. Then you've got the Ultra symbols hanging off the lanyards. You've got them on the legs, on the straps coming off, the Turgis straps coming off the belt buckle, the chest. These little purity seals here have the U symbols. Of course, there's the Ultramar on the axe, as well as shoulders, the little symbol above the head. It's very over the board. But it works a little bit better on the Cataphracti Terminator because it's a much bigger and bulkier model with which to pull it off on. Now, as for the styling, I like this style of custom Terminator armor on this guy. I think it looks really good, especially the way the Aquila Eagle is sort of formed into the chest and has this sort of gold thin trim going on the underside of it. That looks really crisp to me as a detail, and I do really like that. And the combi melter going on here with the over-mounted combi melter instead of the underslung combi melter, I really like that. I think it looks really, really good. And it looks very aggressive with the upwards taper on the grip of the bolt gun. I don't know, there's something about it that I really, really like. And of course, the axe that he's armed with, I think is a perfectly acceptable upscaling of the axe as you would see on the infantry. Now, they're not two-handed weapons, so it doesn't need to be so ludicrously large, but, well, it's not a terrible model for it, so totally cool with that. I do think I could forego putting on the cloak. I don't think that's really necessary for the miniature. And I do think it looks much better with the helmet than this horrible, we'll call him Space Armish bare head that he's got. Not the biggest fan of that. Yeah, this is much better than the Power Armored Praetor, but he's still a very busy, very Ultramarines model. And I do have one major gripe that I'll grumble about. And that is this repeated habit we're seeing with characters where the left hand holds the ranged weapon, the right hand holds the close combat weapon, which is, of course, the opposite of every single upgrade set. So we want our melee weapons in the left hand, and we want our ranged weapons in the right hand, because ranged weapons are all sculpted for the right hand in all of the upgrade kits, the Terminator box sets, whatever it might be. Same as the Power Fists. Apart from Lightning Core Power Fists, everything is sculpted to be a left hand. So if you want to give this guy a Thunder Hammer, or you want to give him a Lightning Core, 1 Lightning Core, 2, whatever. If you want to give this guy, I don't know, Chain Fist, Power Fist, Power Maul, Power Sword, they're all going to be for the other hand. So why didn't they just flip the model's arms? Flip them around. And yeah, I know. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's a legitimate gripe, because part of this hobby, a huge part of it, is building these guys the way you want them to be built. And there are so many options. It's a page of war gear for these Praetors. Let us use that page. Actually, let us pick that war gear. Don't pigeonhole us into having to take certain weapons because you've built your models in such a way that it's really hard to change what they're armed with. Anyway, end my little rant. Then, my wild card for today's episode, because we are pretty light on units for the Ultramarines comparative to many other legions, is Chaplain Cassius from the Deathwatch 40k range. I don't know how long he'll be around for, but he's in Artificer Mark IV power armor, and yes, he has a little bit of Deathwatch going on with the left arm. Well, change the left arm, change the shoulder pad, change the forearm, and ta-da, perfect 30k model right here. He's got a great head, he has a really nice backpack with the Ultramarines icon on it, and you can see, this is a 40k model here, and you could say, he's got a little decoration from the Sigilite, that's why he has the little eye on his chest there. Whatever it might be, right? This is so much more toned down. His Ultramarines iconography is really just one on the backpack, up the top there, a little U carved into each side of the Crozius Arcanum, a little Ultra on this Turge on his chest, on this Bessigue, I should say. And then you compare that to, say, the Power Armored Praetor at Forge World with his 40 different Ultramarines icons. When 40k is the toned down version of something, I think that tells you a lot. But perfect model to use just straight out of the box pretty much as a chaplain. Just, maybe fix up the arm, change the shoulder pad, whatever it might be. So Chaplain Cassius is my ring-in for this episode. Then we move to Remis Ventanus, the Saviour of Kelth, who is perfectly fine. I very much prefer him with the helmet on, and a helmet more like this. Instead of these or these, I think this helmet screams a lot more Ultramarine to me. So it would have been really nice, I think, to see something closer to that being in the upgrade sets. As for the armor, it's like a combination of Mark V, Mark VI, and I don't like them. That's probably not the right way to phrase it. I like it, and I think they've pulled it off, but it doesn't make sense from the universe's perspective of why that character is armored that way. So reconciling the fact that the fluff part of me says no, but the person who's looking at this model says, I think that's a lovely model. And I say that because this is a Praetor level character who was primed and ready to go on a campaign. Why would he have just a kit-bashed Mark V set of power armor? This is a Praetor. He should be having artificered, Mark IV, the most up-to-date modern mark of power armor they could get their hands on. This is not that. This is like Mark V meets Mark VI. I mean, they're like Mark VI shins, but everything else about the armor screams Mark V. I don't know. Just, it's the fluff part that's killing me. Like I said, it's like two conflicting halves of my brain. The fluff half going, no, that's not it at all. Much like with, say, Dominion Zephon, which is why I didn't even mention that character in that review. And the other part of my brain going, well, beautiful model. And so we're just going to go down that direction. I like the little cognoscignum he's got at the back there, very similar to what we see on the power armored models. Helmet looks great. The choice of the power cabling is different, unique, and yet I like it. Same as the straps coming out of the belt buckle with the little plates, also like it. The big Legion standard Vexilia here, yeah, that's nice. It's not too chunky, it's not too refined. It's probably just the right level of what it needed to be. The Ultramarines icons on the shoulder pads and such, and the gold trim around the backpack, gorgeous. It's just blingy enough without crossing into the derpy threshold of that Legion Praetor that we saw earlier. And he's got a lot of Ultramarines logos and icons on him, but for whatever reason, most of it comes off a lot more restrained. It shouldn't be. I mean, this guy should feel like he's got way more going on, yet it feels more restrained, even though they are everywhere when you look close. And maybe that's the difference. You've got to look a bit closer to see it on like the little bit of elbow here, or on the bits of belt buckle at the back, or on the underside of his pistol. Like, they are there, but I guess they're not hitting you in the face, I feel, as much as like on this model here, it hits you in the face. As soon as you see him, you just can't help but start counting. So Ventanis works better. The only place it doesn't make sense is his melter bomb. Like, is that an artificer melter bomb that he's got there hanging off the belt? Like, with the special Ultramarine seal of approval ready to go? Or, yeah, that just makes no sense. And he didn't need a tactical rock, did he? And that, I guess, takes us through to Gilman. Gilman puts us into a funny spot with characters, because I do like the Gilman Primarch model, and apparently a lot more than a lot of other people do, because I thought it was nice to have a Primarch who's not just in combat. Most of the Primarchs, especially to the point of Gilman's release, were in close combat, or running into combat. You know, Fulcrum is up sort of pirouetting in the air, taking a sword swing. Perturabo is firing his bolter mechanism. Ferrus is swinging his hammer. Horus is similar pose to this, but a bit more aggressively stated, that pose. Vulcan is sort of holding his arm out, ready to flamethrower at the same time as backswing with his hammer. Mortarion definitely taking a swing. He's on the backswing with his scythe. Angron is rampaging through a crowd. And that's the point at which, in the Horus Heresy, this model dropped. And Lorgar, who's like Gilman, just sort of standing there in a inspiring regal pose. All works for me. Then I found it curious, though, that almost every Ultramarine character, Remis Ventanis, the Cataphracti Praetor, the Para Praetor, they're all in very similar poses. Standing there, one leg slightly askew from the other, maybe a foot up on something, with one arm thrust forward, the other one held back at their side. One arm thrust forward, the other held back at his side. One arm thrust forward, the other held back at his side. And one arm thrust forward, the other one held back at this side. They're all stoic. Okay. It needed something like that Imperial Fist's original Terminator Praetor. The one who is running with the sword backswinging, the shield up, like he's charging into... They need at least one Ultramarine who was like that, I think. Just to break up the poses a little bit. And I know it's not Gilman's fault, but it's a repeating pattern we see throughout the Legion there. Anyway, as for Gilman himself, I think he's gorgeous. I think he's a beautiful Primarch. And very well balanced. The bling is just the appropriate level for Gilman's character. He's pretty much exactly what I imagined Gilman would be, which that's my biggest compliment I can ever give to Forge World, is you sculpted exactly what I imagined this Primarch should look like. And that all works for me. And I even like the display base having these little icons. It's like Gilman is at a triumph. He is celebrating, victory, the Imperium Secundus, whatever it might be. All gorgeous, all works for me. And I really appreciate it on that level. The detail in the miniature, the fact that, he has the sculpted on 6-pack, but it doesn't just have gold trim around it. It's actually like a gold leaf pattern going around it. It's the little things like that that show you that the sculptor really cared when they made this model. The backpack has that same sort of leafing pattern coming down the sides of it, and it's all balanced. It all looks neat. It all looks nice. I really like this model, and I did enjoy painting Gilman's model. He was one of the more enjoyable ones to paint, maybe because, Ultramarines were the first chapter I had in 40k, so I think many people can say that. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing, I don't know, but this to me is right. This looks right. And compared to that travesty that is his awful 40k model, which I think is just irredeemable garbage, this is gorgeous. I'll take this any day of the week. I mean, his face isn't some deformed monstrosity like that 40k one, and what do I mean, the armor pattern on that 40. Oh, let's just never talk about that thing again. Anyway, that's it. That takes us to the end of the Ultramarines, and you know what? Overall, I think they've gotten out of the Horus Heresy pretty well. They have a lot of really nice-looking characters. It's a gorgeous legion. And, yeah, a few missteps on the Praetors, but that seems to be a common trend here. The older stuff holds up a little bit better, but, yeah. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm back with the Outer Circle. Let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you on the next video.